Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so I will tell a story that's Cinderella in Switzerland. And in the mountains, you have a little city, a medieval city, which is called Gruyère, where actually a few steps down from the city, where you can only walk and not go with the cars. You have the cheese factories. So here you have a castle, which is called Le Château Gruyère, the Gruyère Castle. And just a little city under, a few steps away, you had a young girl who was living with her aunt and cousins in a restaurant. And as she had she had not anymore, she was an orphan. Parents were dead, and she was working there. And from her window, when she sat by the window, she would look up to the castle because many lights came from the castle. And over there in the evening, she could see lights and hear music coming. And so she was so sad because she never could go up there to take part to those dancing moments. And because of course she had to clean the restaurant, and only her cousins could go. So she was with her cat, and she was crying, and a woman appeared, and she listened to her sadness, and she touched her, as the young girl had said that how much she would like to go up and dance in those balls with the others. And as she touched her, of course, all what she was wearing was transforming into a beautiful dress. And she said to her that she had to take a little scarf a little triangle scarf that she would put on the shoulders, because it was so cold outside. It was so cold, and nobody would see her because it was night. But she was to be very attentive, because she had to be back before midnight. So a quarter to midnight, she really had to go and leave the castle in order to be back in the restaurant. So up she goes, so happy to take part for once to those dances. She goes up, and when it's a quarter to 12, quickly she goes out of the space outside of the castle, and she puts her little scarf again on her shoulders, and she runs down to the restaurant again. And she was so happy that the next day she would really want to go up again. And the woman appeared again. Again, she transformed clothes, and up she went up. And that day, that very beautiful day, there was the count of the castle. And she really looked so beautiful, and he was so happy to dance with her. That he was very surprised when she said that she had to go. He didn't have enough time even to ask her name. And he saw her go away, run away, and disappear behind the doors of this castle. And so the next day, the young girl listened to her cousins talk, and the cousins were advocating the coming of this beautiful woman. We didn't know where she was coming from, and if she was even going to come back that very special next night, and that everybody had eyes only for her. And they went up, and again, for the third time, she had her wishes came alive, again, this woman appeared and touched her with her little stick, and she was ready again to go and ready to run up the hill to the castle. She had a little scarf, triangle scarf on her shoulders, and she took off as she went in the space around the castle. She left her little scarf on some bushes, and she went and she danced and she danced with so much joy, with discount. And this man was smiling. He was smiling and he was very calm, and he was kind of special, and he was not worried that night that she would go away, because in order that she wouldn't disappear, all of a sudden he had asked the doors of the outside enclosure to be closed. And so this young woman, whose name is Catherine of the dance, Catherine went and she took a little scarf, she put it on her shoulders. And time was passing. She arrived at the door, but the door was locked, was closed. So she knocked on the door with her hands. She knocked on the door with her feet. As much as she could, she called, but the music up in the castle was too loud and nobody would hear her. And so she thought, oh, how much she wanted to go over this door in order to be back before midnight down in the restaurant. And suddenly it was almost midnight. And when dawn, the first bell of midnight rang, she felt very, very light, and even lighter. And she felt so light because she had transformed into a little owl. And off she went and flew away. And that's why from this moment on, by the castles, you can very often see a little owl that's waiting to dance again in the next ballroom whenever there will be dances. And that's the end of the story. It's a Swiss story, up in the mountains in the region of Fribourg.
Okay, thank you very much. It's many of us know that as a version of Cinderella. Do you recognize the name Cinderella?
Yes, it's really a version of Cinderella in Switzerland. What I find so interesting about this version is that it's a marvelous story, but it's also a fantastic story. As she's imprisoned, she cannot go away, and there is no glass shoes, but she transformed into this little owl, and I found that beautiful. This ending is quite different. Maybe, did you know already the story, or do you discover the story today?
Well, I think we all know Cinderella. It's the most famous fairy tale in the world. But I know there are different versions in different places.
So I thought it was great to tell you the version you could find in Switzerland.
Yes.
Of course, it would be interesting to share different version. Maybe do you have a version of Cinderella in India, for example? Or in the States, or?
Well, I guess the one key element of the story is a character who is not appreciated and is being exploited. Then people are being cruel to her or him. So
Yes, of course.
that character is having a very difficult time. The character is not experiencing love. It's not experiencing a nurturing environment. So that character is having a very difficult time.
Yes, of course. Or yes, it was. Yeah, of course. We don't know what happened before in the story before her parents disappeared. Of course, it's a recurring archetype. This often.
But she stays calm and kind of keeps herself together, and somehow that magical fairy godmother character comes and helps her.
Yes, exactly. And it's yesterday I was telling this story with pictures as to tell some Swiss stories and legends. I had a friend constructing a declination of the butai of the Kamishibai, the little wooden theater, but here it's a large chocolate tablet, and you could find since a century ago chocolate factories, Nestlé, Peter, Caillé, Colère, some little stamps that were in the chocolate tablets and then collected by the families who would then buy some books. It was one of the first illustrated books for children in Switzerland. And they were collecting those stamps, very little stamps, the size of a finger. And then these little stamps would illustrate the different parts of the stories or discoveries or that you could find in Switzerland, the animals, the paysage, how do we say, the landscapes, and many different elements of the cultural heritage. And so the chocolate was an access. Here in Vevey, so where I live, it was the first milk chocolate tablet that was created, and Peter lived very close to where I am now, and so this large chocolate tablet is really that you can find on the website under discovering. Once upon a time in Switzerland, discovering Swiss stories. You can find some pictures of that chocolate tablet. And so this was the first. It's a larger size, transformed into a wooden theater of the first chocolate tablet that was sent around the world. And so yes, so and there were always 12 images that would illustrate a story or a discovery or plans or whatever aspects of the cultural heritage it would be about. And so I enlarged those little stamps into a very large size, and I put every time 12 images in the wooden chocolate in the chocolate tablet, the giant chocolate tablet, and I open in the front as if you would open a chocolate tablet and appear the images as in the Kamishibai. So this story of Catherine of the dance is one of the story that I told yesterday.
Very good. Okay, we have to move on to the next story soon, but does anyone have any comments or questions or resonations with this story? Does anyone want to say anything?
No, I just wanted to add something. I thought what was beautiful about this story too is a dimension that I found so important in storytelling, and which is the unknown, not knowing. And I feel that Catherine de la Danse illustrates very well this situation in which we don't know what will happen. We are just here together. We don't know what will happen next and what what we will have to face and what we will have to take in order to continue with all of you.
Yes, and
So if you have if it resonates or if you have any question,
yes,
please ask me. I'd be very happy to answer.
well, a key element of the story, of course, is the fairy godmother who helps her with that symbolic little stick, which makes dreams come true, and it transforms matter. Now, of course, that fairy godmother, there are two ways to look at her. There are many ways, but two ways are it's just representing an aspect of herself that loves herself, that respects herself, that gives support to herself. Maybe it's inspired by characters in that character's life earlier. Another way to look at that fairy godmother is, you know, the classic fairy tales came into existence soon after Christianity was implemented in Europe and Scandinavia and the Slavic countries. So that meant that the local goddesses had to go underground. They could no longer be worshipped. And what happened was a lot of the stories about the goddesses were recycled into fairy tales, where they were not in competition with the new religion, but still people could have stories about their beloved goddesses. So the old woman who lives in the wood, who has special powers, the fairy godmothers, many of them have a mythic undertow of that of those ancient goddesses. Now, I apologize. We do have to.
Oh, that's fine. It's beautiful, Eric. I just wanted to add that it's beautiful how you centered the self-love also with that metaphor of this archetype of the godmother. How do you say godmother?
Fairy godmother, yes.
Fairy godmother, yeah. But I feel also that there is this autonomy of the character and the fact that she, whatever happens, somehow stay free from some of the circumstances, not realistically, but with a soul somehow.
Yes.
And I hope that this little owl that takes care of the nights too, stay awake, flies away to other countries and keeps somehow this soully love and affection for herself and also the world around her, maybe.
Yes, wonderful.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for beginning the festival with this story and the archetype of the fairy
Eric,
godmother, who
Eric,
of course we all hold within us the fairy godmother and the fairy godfather, who is always there to help us in our time of need. Yes, go ahead.
Also, yeah, also, sorry, I thought it was interesting because it's the opening of the festival and we don't know what's going to happen. And I thought it was beautiful to throughout the story also to fly away and return and fly away further and return and listen and travel. Great. With all of you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now
You're welcome.
I'm going to stop this recording and we'll start the next recording in just a moment.